You are listening to How to Get Over Your Ex, episode number 118. Getting over your ex no matter where you're from. Welcome to How to Get Over Your Ex, a podcast on getting over your ex without it just taking time. I'm your host, breakup coach Dorothy. Let's turn your pain into power and your heartbreak into happy. Hello, Bravehearts. How is everyone doing? I am so excited. Today I have a special guest for you. No one understands how excited I am. So let me just pause here for a moment. I have Franzi on the line with me today. And one of my favorite things about her, I'm just going to kick it off. I'm going to tell you guys why we're here and what we're going to be talking about. But first, I have to tell you why I'm totally obsessed with her. So she came to me through my private Instagram DMs. Do you remember this? Yeah.
Totally.
So she came to me through my private Instagram DMs, which a lot of you do. I love it. I feel like we're besties before I ever meet you inside of the program because we're DMing together. It's one of my favorite parts of my job. And she came to me through her my private DMs, and we were chatting about things. She signed up for the program, and she has this beautiful photo of her in her Instagram thing. All of you guys are beautiful, and I love checking out your little profile photos. I think they're always so cute. And she was adorable, and I was like, oh my God, so cute. And then you got in the program, and one of the very first things you did was cut off all of your hair. And I don't think you understand how impressed I was of you for doing that. And now when you did that instantly, you sent us a photo, and I was like, this girl looks like Halsey, just fucking badass. So cool. And I was not only was I so impressed, but I just think it's kind of interesting how much your energetics changed when you cut off all of your hair. And I didn't even know you that well at that moment, but I could tell based off of the energy in your private DMs versus the energy you had in the program once you cut off all your hair was completely different. And I know that that's so surface level in comparison to what we're talking about today, but I just have to start out the episode talking about that because I don't think you understand how much that impacted me. And I think it's so cool.
Oh my God. It's really, really confirming to hear that. And that was something I purely did for myself, but just hearing it from others is, it just goes down like butter. So good to hear. Thank you.
I love it. Amazing. Okay. So let's talk about why we're here today. So Franzi, you are from Germany, correct?
Right.
Yes. Yes. And you travel a lot. You're always all over the place.
Yes. Whenever I can, I'm not at home. Love going to places. Yes.
Yes. Super badass. I love it. People who travel, to me, it blows my mind. My best friend traveled around the world for an entire year. And to me, it's so hard for me to travel. Even though I have a remote job, I feel like it's one of those things that is a limiting belief for me. So I love watching other people do it. So, okay. So she's from Germany, and she reached out to me. And one of the hesitations that you had was around the fact that, the podcast is in English. You're not a native English speaker. You're not American. And I think this is something that I wanted to address because you're not the only one that says this or does this or asks this question. Can someone who is not from the United States do the Get Over Your Ex program? Someone who's not from the United States, can they take the tools on the podcast and utilize them? Is it going to be different because the cultures are different? All of that. And I wanted to bring you on to talk about that so you could give all of the Bravehearts your perspective of that. We're going to talk about that, yes, but we're also going to talk about your breakup journey and what that might look like and how it might be different, even when you're in a separate country from America. Does that make sense?
Absolutely does.
Cool. So let's talk about it. I want you to first go ahead and give yourself an introduction. Tell people who you are, where you're from, if you want to share what you do, your age, people would love to like know who you are. Also, if you want to share your zodiac sign, all the fun things like your human design type, if you know that, we're open to all this stuff.
Okay. So, hello, I'm Franzi. I'm so excited to be here. I do want to apologize in advance whenever I sound German, have a super weird accent, or say things that don't necessarily make sense. I will try to correct myself. But anyhow, so yeah, I'm 28 years old. I'm from Germany. I have this student life going on at the moment. I did work before in management, so I've done the office job. And yeah, after that, I traveled a bit. Now I'm studying, have two side jobs, and yeah, just kicking life really.
Oh, I love it. And do not apologize. I love the way that you sound and I love the words that you use, like, especially when I don't know what they are. I'm like, ooh, what is that word? So cool. All right. So tell us about your breakup journey. Where did you start and where are you now? Let's talk about that.
Yes. So my breakup journey started in, I would say, March 2020. So quite a while ago. And for me, it was a long distance relationship between here and Australia, hence the accent. um, and there were so many reasons why we broke up, or let's say he broke up. So very personal issues with him. Also, Corona happened at that time, and just not knowing when we would be able to see each other again, or how it just would turn out. I think that was also a main issue. And from that moment on, it was just going up and down. Like we wouldn't talk for a while, then we would talk again. Like it was, we couldn't really get away from each other. Like we always find each other again. And that went on pretty much till I started the program, to be honest. Like sometimes the break was a bit longer, sometimes the break was shorter. And let me tell you, it is exhausting. It is so exhausting. And I went through a massive hole of just not being able really to cope with the situation. Like I was in Australia for a while and I didn't want it to be here. And that on top of that, I just felt miserable. And I really remember those feelings so well still. Um, so then, yeah, I was at this point in my life where I was like, do I want to continue like this? This
And how
up and
long was
down?
that? Hold on. Tell us how long that was. Like, how long was that
Yeah,
time frame?
sure. So I think when did the program start? That was like
Yeah. Your iteration of the program. So you were in round 6. So that happened.
June, July, something like that this year,
Yeah.
2021. So let's just say roughly like that went on for 1.5 years, like
Mhm.
a really long time.
Mhm.
And at this point, I kind of asked myself, like, can I even like get over him properly? Like, is it still in for me? Like, is it even still possible? And I think now I'm getting into the reasons why I signed up.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, we can always venture into that. It's going to be a
um,
part of the journey, right? Yeah.
I'll leave that for a second. But yeah, I then signed up, and now here I am talking on the podcast. um, I feel, I don't know, it's a change that is really hard to put into words. And I know there will be some parts when I really have to stop for a second to not start crying, because it is something so personal about the person, what the program makes with you, what you pretty much, I don't even want to say the program makes you, it's like yourself making all
Mhm.
these changes. The program is just the trigger for it. And
Mhm.
it's just like a beautiful tool. And I don't know, I'm obsessed with my life. I'm excited for what's to come. I just can't wait. And to be totally honest, I haven't felt that free and true to myself probably like ever. And to get this from a program is like, I really want to swear right now. Like, holy shit.
And in 3 months, something that you went through for a year and a half, and then resolving that part of your life in 3 months, I also think is pretty
Yeah.
insane.
sorry, I'll also just remembered, like, can someone do it not being American? Was that already a question?
No, but let's talk about it. Yeah. So did you have any hesitation to joining? And I remember like one of the hesitations being you're not American, you're not a native speaker. I also have people always being like, well, I feel like it's happened with a lot of Australians. They're like, what about the time change or like the time difference for the calls? Like what goes on with that? So if you can touch on any of that, that would be super useful. Like what held you back from that and how did you overcome it to be able to join?
Yes. So there were a few things for me that held me back. So the first one, and I know that a lot of people struggle with that, was just the shame and guilt for having to do a program in the
Mm,
first place. Like, why am I not able to do this on myself? That was definitely number one. And I think that's that has nothing to do with culture. That's
mm,
like general something people struggle with. And I remember like that was one of the things I really wanted to work on in that program. Like when you ask me like what are the main issues, it is shame and guilt towards myself. So that
mm.
would be number one. Number two
Hold
definitely
on. I
was
want to pause you there because what I think was fascinating about that is that shame and the guilt wasn't just showing up in that area. It was showing up in all areas of your life. Because I remember at the beginning of the program when you outlined your goals, it was shame and guilt around being with someone who didn't want to be with you or wanting to be with someone who didn't want to be with you. So I think that's really fascinating too, of like overcoming the shame and guilt to just get the help that you want and not like beating yourself up for not being able to do it on your own also probably aided you in letting go of the shame and guilt of wanting to be with someone who didn't necessarily want to be with you.
yeah, definitely. So it's in my head, it's like a poison, like shame and guilt. It just spreads like through
Mm-hmm.
other areas of your life. So yes, it was like the shame and guilt towards myself, um, like towards the program, towards not being over him, and yes, so many other parts. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, definitely. I also, yeah, ask myself, can I do this program if it's in English? Even though I don't struggle too much with the language, like will there be any language barriers? Will it work? So I've literally asked myself all of these questions, and I can confirm 100% it is not an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not at all. Like, you can make the program yours. That's how I would describe it. Like, you can take as much out of it or as little out of it as you want to. Like, it's all your initiative, what you're willing to give in, where you want to get. And it's a very flexible approach, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I remember there was one time I went on a holiday and I was gone for a week, and I needed that. I just needed to be away. It was just really important for me. But coming back, I again had that shame and guilt of like, oh my gosh, I was gone. Did I fail? And you were like, no, this is fine. Like, do whatever you need to do. So, um, also when I missed like some calls or something, I could always go back and pick it up. And it's really beautiful to see that how how much you engage in a program has nothing to do with your success. Or um also, maybe if there were like 2 3 words that I didn't understand, which I don't think that ever happens, is um no, it's not a setback, not at all the people are like so lovely, really welcoming. Like, Dorothy, you've been like just so patient and friendly. Like, I've never felt ashamed. Just like, I don't know if I had to ask a question again or something. So I felt really like cared for. And yeah, with the time, sometimes I would join a call in the middle of the night if I had the time for it. And if not, it's not a problem. Like, if you don't make it a problem, it's not a problem. So there's no right or wrong way to do it. And learning that is just really amazing. So yes, I would say there is no barrier when it comes to cultural differences, or even if you're not as familiar with English, like, just do it. It will
Mhm.
help you so much.
I love it. And so I think one thing too, I want to touch on, did you ever watch the recordings? So like if you couldn't attend live, did you watch the recordings of the calls?
Yes. Yes. And they're such a big help, because that happened to me when I was listening to podcasts, and it was happening to me when I listened to recordings. It's just the other girls were speaking my soul at times.
Mm.
It was just, yes, that is me. And I remember I was actually on one call where I got coaching, and this one girl was before me, and we literally had the same topics going on. And I was like, I almost don't need coaching anymore, because she just touched base on everything. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it also made me realize that it doesn't really matter where you're from, what culture you are, how old you are, we all go through the same stuff. And yeah, it's a very comforting thought to know that. And yes, just like there's nothing holding you back doing it if you're not American or not a native speaker. No.
Oh, I love that. I just think it's so beautiful. And I love what you said about um it being flexible and making it your own, because it is a powerful lesson to know that how much you, and you said these words too in a way that I loved, but you said how much you engage in the program does not determine your success in the program. And I think that's so important to remember, because I think people come in and I give way more than you actually need. And I streamline the process. I make it simple and easy, but there's more than you could ever possibly need in there. And learning how to take that, take what I've given you and do, how do I say it? Make, like you said, make it your own so that it works for you is a whole lesson in itself. Learning to like trust you, learning how to make it for you, and learning to get like the result that you want, regardless of, no matter what program you are in. This applies to anything. Like no matter if you're in university, like you're talking about, no matter if that's a great example actually, is like you could go to one university and they have a program for psychology, and another university has the same degree of psychology, but their program and their steps to get there might look different. But you still get the same result. And so I think that's super fascinating to think about, is any program you ever do, you could just decide that you're going to create the result that you want from the program, and you create that result regardless of how little or how much you actually engage in the program. And obviously, I like to say, and this is just my own brain and my own process, but I'm like, what you put in, you get out. But that doesn't mean, oh my gosh, I have to be all in or all out, right? There's that in between that our brain has a hard time seeing, but I love
Yeah,
that.
and that's something I was wondering, like, do I have to attend every call? Do I have to do all the homework? And that's like, to speak a word of relief. No, you don't. Like that's what I meant. Like realizing that, it can still succeed. I can still make this work, even if I've maybe missed something. It's very like super duper freeing. And it's also like it's a great analogy for life, actually. Like there's always you can do more in your day. There's always you can do more in your week, in your year, at your job. But at the same time, it's like such a freeing thing, and just gives you so much peace the moment you realize this is what it is, and I know that this is the best thing I could have done, and just be happy with it, because I feel we always like grasp for more and more and more, but it's not really what you need. And that's the same thing in the program. Like the sooner you realize like nothing's going wrong, this is a progress, and success is not a straight line. That was a huge, huge, like almost like an epiphany for me. Like it is so stereotypical, like everybody knows it, but for me it just clicked, was just this light bulb going on. Like it's not a straight line, and feeling crappy sometimes or fail, not even, I don't even want to say fail, but like not doing some homework, or even if yes, I didn't intend to message him, but now I did. It's not an indicator that you're doing it wrong or anything. Like it's just part of the process. And that's what really beautiful about the program, is that you learn to really get comfortable with all of these situations.
Ugh, I love it. So good. So fun. All right. So tell us, what was your biggest struggle at the time that led you to signing up for the program?
Yeah, so for me, it was I have to do something. Like, I do not want to continue the way it is, because I was doing pretty well, but it's always like this something in the back of my head that's holding me back at times. And that led me to, I'm going to do this right now. And I had two indicators for me that made me convinced that this is the right decision. So the first one was I was slightly nervous and scared, and I had just had this feeling inside my gut. And whenever I had this feeling in the past, it turned out to be a great decision. So it was usually when I decided to go for a big journey or to quit my job and live half a year somewhere. And that's the feeling I had. So I was like, this must be my intuition. I'm just going to listen to it and do it. And like whenever I told friends about it, or that's also what I've been telling myself. And yeah, that's like such a big one for me. Like, oh my gosh, just need to take a breath.
Oh, you're gonna make me cry.
It's just like for the first time in my entire life, I invested in myself and not for myself. And that was just, I'm doing this purely for me and for my own well-being. And usually I would do something like I would invest in education to get a good job, to get a good house, to get whatsoever. And this was something to invest in who I am and who I am becoming and who I will be for the rest of my life. So once I've realized that and I saw the program as a tool to get there, I was like, yes, I'm in. And that is the reason for me to do this. And then I can, no matter how the program turns out, I didn't know how the program would turn out. Like I literally had no idea. There's always that bit of risk that you have, the unknown and uncertainty. But I was like, with that attitude, if I go in, it will work out. And I can 100% confirm that like the program for me was like that missing piece that I was looking for. It was like, I feel closer to my own truth, to who I am and what I want and who I want to be than I ever have. Definitely.
Oh, I love that. That makes my heart melt because I talk about how, yes, the program is called Get Over Your Ex. That's what we're doing. We're getting over someone. But the deeper thing that is much more important than getting over your ex is becoming the person who's over her ex, right? And it's much more about who you're becoming than it is about getting over your ex. That's just like a side thing that happens when you become the version of yourself that you've always desired to be.
Yeah, definitely. And also what's really beautiful that I didn't actually recognize until the program was over is that it's really hard to see your own progress. Like it's almost impossible at times. And that's why I would encourage people to maybe sign up if they really have a hard time seeing their own success, if they really have a hard time giving themselves credit, which is 100% me. And I was really like at the start asking myself, am I doing it right? Is it enough? And all of these things. And the beautiful thing about it, if you have someone else looking from the outside, they tell you you are doing great and you have come so far already. You're just like transforming at this moment. You're just not realizing it. And this is something that it only for that, I would say it's worth to sign up because you just get this confirmation from the outside that you can almost never give to yourself until you get to that point where you are, which I feel I am now. But I had to learn it.
Yeah, right. And it's a skill that you have to learn. And then while you're along the way, like it's great to have the outside information of like, is this working? Is this not working? And then also, I think that's really important to talk about too, because it's something that was integrated into my business in this past year that I didn't do for a really long time until I realized it was needed, but tracking quote unquote metrics. That sounds so boring and corporate. But like doing our check-ins, right? Like checking in at the beginning about, I have the Bravehearts check-in and we're looking at a couple of things. We're looking at breakup demographics so that we can compare against everyone else. Cause I think that that's important to look at to see how many other people are in the same boat as you. We look at your desirability, the desire scale, right? Which actually goes into my next question with you. So we'll talk about that in just a second, but like looking at between 0, having 0 desire for my ex, and 10, all of the desire of my ex. And we track that beginning, middle, and end. And then we track top 3 feelings. And we also track your goals and how you know you will have achieved them. And being able to look at that and have someone holding you accountable to that, and including yourself, that's like the most important, holding yourself accountable to that, but just writing them down and having them to look back at is so something we don't think about doing on our own. Like, when's the last, at least for me, I'm like, when's the last time that I wrote down, like, I'll write down a list of things I want to go out and create. I'll create a vision board, but I don't ever like just naturally without another coach or something look at how will I know I have achieved it, and then look backwards at it and celebrate it. By the time I already get there, I'm like, what's next, instead of enjoying what I just created.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I feel like when everybody that enters the program has just this mess. Like it's just like all messed up. And I think like you talked about it in other podcasts, but it really is like the program is or could be seen just like tidying it all up. Like laying all the pieces apart and seeing what's in front of you, and just that acknowledgement, that awareness of seeing what's there is so, so, so great. And that has helped me a lot. And again, not only with the breakup, but also with other things, like awareness of seeing what's there is like the first step. And it's just like really helping.
Freeing.
Yeah.
I love it. So let's talk about desire, because this is like my favorite topic ever. So what was your actualization that made you realize that desire for something or someone was actually within you, like something that you controlled?
Yes. So desire was probably the biggest takeaway from the program for me, next to the relationship that I discovered towards myself. Um, I had massive desire for my ex, like massive. Everyone out there who's like, I still desire him, even though it's been so long. I'm like, yes, I hear you. That's me.
Or we
And
just, hold on, I have to pause you too. Or if you have a strong desire for someone who treated you poorly, or wasn't the best towards you, or maybe was disrespectful or dismissive of the relationship. Like, I just had a coaching call yesterday with like people in the newest group that's going on, and someone had so much shame and guilt, which is so fascinating because that's what you struggled with, around still having desire for someone who treated them poorly. They're like, there's literally no reason to have desire for this kind of human being, but I still desire them. Right. And so, still within your control. I'm so excited for you to talk about, but I just wanted to throw that out there for others who might resonate with that. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So for me, that was also really connected to that guilt and shame. Like, why do I desire someone who is so far away, who obviously doesn't want to be with me? Otherwise, he would be with me right now. So, and the thing for me was that what I really admired about him was just his spirit. Like for me, it was that adventurous spirit that I was like, that's him, and he's so great, and all of the thoughts. And I think I don't actually know which specific task it was, but all of a sudden, like you made me realize that no, it's not him that has this adventurous spirit. It's like me. I'm creating this. Like, even if I was with him and it was a great time we had and we went for adventures, it was like my thinking, my perspective of things that make me experience it that way. And I was like, holy what? Like, I can do this. And it was just like a knot that just went away. It was so, so great that everything that I projected onto him is actually in me. Like, I can create that. I can create that now with myself, with other people, and that I created in the past. And that was something I thought about so many times and so often. And for me, what has really helped me to understand is like trying to solve problems is really connected to that for me, because like having that desire, still not being over him, for me was a massive problem that I was trying to solve. So first of all, no, it's not a problem to solve, and it's an experience to be had. That was huge for me and took away so many expectations. And I was like, why am I trying to solve this? How am I trying to solve this? And I realized that, it's that that past memories that I use, like that past thinking of trying to solve the desire problem. It didn't work. And for me, it was like, why am I thinking thoughts that are not serving me? That took me a very long time to realize, but I did in the end. And what came up for me was like, if I would think the thoughts of 6-year-old Franzi, would it help me right now? Would it serve me? Would it solve my problems? Would it do anything for me? No, it wouldn't. Like, it served her back in the day, but definitely wouldn't do now. So why is it me right now sitting here still thinking those thoughts from the past and desiring like that person that is obviously in my past? And that for me made it very, very clear that I need to change my thinking and to realize that, yeah, whatever I was projecting onto him is within me. And with that, I overcame that gap of like trying to solve something with past data, which cannot happen. Like, it cannot function. I was so stuck in those old thinking patterns that just automatically happen. It was just click, and I would like, oh, I'm missing him, so what shall I do? I just call him, because that used to solve my problem in the past when we were together. You know, I would call him and the problem was solved. But now I'm in a different circumstance. So me trying to, oh, I call him, no, I can't do that. That's a problem then. So I feel really crappy, and then I desire him. It's like, yes, because you try to use those old thinking patterns, those old solutions for a current different problem. And realizing that in itself was so huge, because it gave me the power, the empowerment to change that and realize that, first of all, it's not a problem in the first place, but even if it is, I have the power, I have the tool, I have the skills to solve it, because I can change my thinking and not be stuck in the past. And that was truly mind-blowing.
Yeah, I could cry hearing you describe that. That's going to help so many people. I can just like see the Bravehearts being like, what just happened right there? Like, that is huge. And I actually remember, I remember that coaching call where you realized the first thing that you were talking about projecting all of that amazingness onto him when it was actually you, because you were on holiday and you had just been at like to a festival with one of your friends, and you had a good time with your friend. And we used that as an example, but like the example that was coming to my mind when you were just talking about it right there and then, but I don't know if we used this or not, but there are times where I have friends who have boyfriends, and we go hang out with the boyfriend, and the experience they're having with the boyfriend is totally different from the experience I'm having with the boyfriend, because my thoughts about the boyfriend are different than my friend's thoughts about the boyfriend. And that's like a perfect example of how you're creating the experience you've had in your past relationship. If like, yes, your ex could be amazing and so cool and like awesome, and everyone else agrees with you, but the only reason you can experience that amazingness is because of your capacity to have amazing thoughts about that person, which means you can find another amazing, beautiful human being and also have the capacity to experience their amazingness. It's not just confined to that one person, and you're the one that creates it. You're the one that's able to, and that I say the same thing with deep connection, where we like long for this deep connection with someone. And you can technically have deep connection with anybody. Again, it just comes down to, I would prefer to find someone who it's easy to have deep connecting thoughts about. Like, I could technically create deep connection with a rock. If I have really awesome thoughts about this rock and how connected I am to this rock. And that doesn't mean I'm going to sit around spending my time and investing my time in creating deep connection with a rock, but I am going to spend my time and energy into creating relationships that have deep connection within them, with the people that I want to. And then if it's really hard for me to create deep connection with someone because of like huge differences, I probably won't invest a lot of time and energy into that. Not because there's something wrong with that person, but because I don't want to. And I think it's huge to realize that for yourself. And I like love everything you just said about all of that.
Yeah, it also came down to that awareness again, just like seeing that process of automatically going through all of the thoughts that create desire. Like I think I was still desiring him so much, but I was like, I don't think desiring thoughts. No, I do desire him, but I don't think desiring thoughts. And then I went through thought work like really deep and intensely, and I was like, oh, I think I do. And
Yeah.
because it's such an automatic process and you find so much comfort in these old ways of thinking, they just happen. And that's like, to be honest, I felt a great deal of discomfort discovering that, and it was not something pleasant. And that might need to be said as well, that parts of the program do not feel great. And that is part of the process. Like, we are so conditioned or socialized to not feel certain things. And I do want to really point out that the program gives you the chance to restructure like your concept about that. Like,
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong. There are no good or bad feelings. It's just what we label them, really. I try not to label feelings anymore, or how I feel. I just try to see them from a curious point of view and take them for what they are. And they all have some kind of purpose. And then you can decide, like, first feel them, and then what do I want to do with it? Do I want to hold on to it? Do I want to change my thinking? And it just really empowers you. So for me to realizing I do still desire him, and yes, I find it really uncomfortable to realize that, just living in that void of like dwelling in the past but being in the present moment, and it just didn't align really. That was painful, but also so freeing. And with that also came that realization of, yes, that's usually what we do when we desire someone. Like, we desire something that might be within ourselves. And it's not very easy to realize that because you don't want to, because you're very fond of that person. But once you do, it's just it just makes everything a lot clearer. And I also do want to point out, like, it doesn't mean, and I really admire that about what you were telling us, all the time, is like, you don't have to make him a bad person, or her, I don't know.
Mhm.
But it's like, for me it was important. I would probably never stop loving him as a person, and I
Mhm.
don't really want to. He's a great human, and I treasure him so much, and I can honestly say that. But still, I do not want to hold on to those thinking patterns and thoughts I had about him in the past, because it's just not serving me anymore. That doesn't mean that I dismiss him as the person he is. And yes, I still dearly love him for who he is, but it just really puts the focus back on your life, and actually not putting the focus back on your life, but giving you the ability and skill and tool to do so. And that was just such a great achievement for me.
Oh, I love it. I'm so glad you talked about discomfort because that is like literally, that is a staple portion of the program where we cannot reduce desire. You will not. I promise you, no matter how hard you try, you will never reduce desire for something without experiencing discomfort. And not only experiencing discomfort, but you have to learn how to not react to the discomfort. If you do not learn how to allow discomfort to be there without reacting, you will not reduce desire. You will be simply posting a positive sticky note over a negative situation, like I've talked about before, where it feels like you're faking a belief and it doesn't feel authentic to you. That is so important to say. And I'm so glad you brought it up because that is literally, it is impossible to reduce desire without feeling and experiencing discomfort.
Yeah.
We can even look at it as like a basic example of food, you guys. If you're having a hard time wrapping your brain around this, is it's like if you're used to having ice cream after dinner and you got yourself into a habit of seeing the ice cream after dinner, having the ice cream after dinner, and you have all these amazing thoughts about ice cream that makes you desire the ice cream, like it's my favorite food, all the stuff that I've said before, where it feels like you're faking a belief and it doesn't feel authentic to you. That is so important to say. And I'm so glad you brought it up because that is literally, it is impossible to reduce desire without feeling and experiencing discomfort. We can even look at it as like a basic example of food, you guys. If you're having a hard time wrapping your brain around this, is it's like if you're used to having ice cream after dinner and you got yourself into a habit of seeing the ice cream after dinner and you have all these amazing thoughts about ice cream that makes you desire the ice cream, like it's my favorite food, all the stuff that I've said before, then when it comes to finishing dinner, your brain is going to automatically tell you all these amazing thoughts about the ice cream. And if you have all these amazing thoughts about the ice cream, but you don't give yourself the ice cream, it's uncomfortable, right?
Preach.
And you've got to sit in the discomfort and learn how to experience the discomfort without reacting, meaning without going to the freezer and grabbing the ice cream, or without trying to distract yourself, or without just trying to like shove it down. Learning how to sit with that discomfort and openly and honestly look at what is being created there, and allowing yourself to just sit with discomfort and feel it all the way through until it's gone. And that is something we are not taught. We are taught to feel better over and over and over again at all expense. So important. I'm so glad you brought that up. Okay. So let's move on from that, because I think beautiful, beautiful thing is desire. So I want to know, who were you when you started the program in comparison to who you are today?
Yes. So I started, I want to start on a positive note. I liked myself when I started the program, and I don't think some people do. But again, I was really feeling this great amount of guilt and shame towards myself. Like, I would give myself so much negative self-talk, and most of the time I wasn't even realizing that. Because again, like default thought pattern, it would just happen in an instant, and I would make myself responsibility for everything that was going wrong in my life. I really felt sort of helpless to some extent, like almost a bit desperate, because it felt something so out of my control. Like, it's been going on for so long. Like, what's going to change now? Like, is it going to stay like this forever? And that was probably the biggest thing. And my biggest issue next to the shame and guilt was fear. I was such a fearful person. And I'm not a fearful person when it comes to the activities I do in life, but just, yeah, just like fear of ending up alone, fear of making a mistake, fear of what even if I regret the program, like it's just like really fearful, but very hidden, like very subconsciously fearful. And now I think, it's really hard to again try to put that in short words, but I'm just so open to whatever life brings me. Like, I've gotten really good at realizing when I'm talking negatively towards myself, and then letting go of that. And I think that is unfortunately something that so many people struggle with. Like, I hear friends, I hear my family, and they would state things, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how could you say that about yourself? That hurts my soul. And I've gotten really good at indicating whenever I'm doing that towards myself, and that's just not happening anymore, because like you're only hurting yourself and it's really not getting you anywhere. And I am beyond grateful that I came to the realization of that, or that I'm not able to realize whenever I do fall back into that trap of something went wrong, and then I'm just shooting all over myself, or really, I don't know, thought I could have done more or better or something. So um now I'm open, I'm happy, I'm really curious. Like, curious is probably, and adventurous, like, because we talked about it before, like I'm just like, I see life as an adventure, and that's like just so beautiful to see that I can choose to see my life as an adventure, because obviously that is something that I really resonate with so much, and that's why I projected it to my ex-partner. Whereas now I can see my life as an adventure, and whatever comes, good or bad, like I feel skilled to deal with it. And I also want to point out though that some, like, I don't want to give the impression that um there are no issues anymore in my life, or no problems, or that I'm happy all day every day. Like, I don't want to lead to this misbelief. Like, I still feel sad, and I still sometimes talk negatively about myself, but I think like the point of realizing it and getting behind all of that is just something I would have never learned without the program. So that is just so, so huge because we are still human. Like we will never be perfect, if you want to call it that, and nobody should be, but it's just the way you are able to behave and with that to help yourself in the end that I've learned. And yeah, I'm just really, really, really thankful for that. Definitely.
I love that. So good. All right. So where are you headed now? We want to know what's going on now. Where are you headed?
um, I'm smashing uni.
I love it. I love it.
So that's good, and it's a good thing to say because I would have never said that before the program. So that's like huge already. I'm super excited for what's to come, and just like again to be open, like to be okay if there's no one in my life, but also to be really okay if there is someone in my life. And to be totally honest, like also I feared so much before the program, like, oh, what like does the program mean I will never get back together with my ex? And to be honest, I cannot say, but also it's not an option that I would totally cross off. So it's just that broad variety of like the future and what it holds that I just want to jump into it and see what happens. And again, like sometimes I just stop and be like, Franzi, nothing has gone wrong here. There is no problem. Like just feel whatever is coming. You can make it yours, just like you can make the program yours. You can whatever life is bringing you, you can make it yours. And so yes, I'm trying to become a better person each day for my own sake, and also to inspire others to do the same as far as they can. Like whoever is willing to learn, I think will get the help if they really want to. Like if you want to change, it's already the spark within you that just go for it. And yeah, was that answering the question?
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. It sounds like you're on the up and up. And you actually said something that reminded me of a quote that I saw the other day on Instagram, where we always talk about I'm becoming a better version of myself. I'm becoming the best, most highest version of myself. And someone mentioned, like, what if we started using the word favorite and becoming my most favorite version of myself? And I'm like, oh, I love that so much because I feel like when we're saying, like, I'm becoming the best version of myself, as if we haven't been our best version like the whole time. And I'm like, I think we all
Yeah.
have been. And it goes back to what you said when you were like, who were you when you started in comparison to who you are today? You're like, I loved who I was then, and we can love who we were then and also continue to work towards being the most favorite version of ourselves always.
Yeah, totally,
I
totally
love
agree.
that. So good. All right. So, is there anything else that you feel like would be useful for the Bravehearts to know about when it comes to any of the ahas you had throughout the program? Any, words of wisdom? Anything else that you want to share with them that we haven't really chatted about?
So I would definitely tell people who are a bit of a fearful person when it comes to shame and guilt as me, like there is no thing that should be holding you back from doing the program if that's what you want to do. Like if you think, oh, maybe this is too difficult or maybe this is not worth the program, if you're even thinking about doing it, you probably have good reason to do it. And there is no reason to be fearful. Or I know there's always like that certain risk and uncertainty, but in my opinion, like again, because you can make it yours, it's nothing to wrap your head around. I'm not sure if that saying was used right, but it's nothing to be afraid of. And I can tell you 100%, no matter how you go through the program, you will take away great, great things. And I wish that in the end of the day, like just like listening to the podcast, if the program isn't something you want to do and just applying, like literally applying it, there's like a massive difference between like just listening to it. And that was me. And I thought I've done the work and actually sitting down and doing it. Let me tell you, there is. Just do it for yourself. Like it's not really about showing the other person, like, I don't know, I've won or whatever. It's like really just helping yourself, and who at the end of the day doesn't want that, just like becoming your own best friend really.
Mhm.
um So yeah, let me think. So that was something because I was a bit like hesitant and concerned and like, should I really do it? So it was really reconfirming for me to hear people say that. Um, I think other than that, we covered pretty much all the content that I wanted to bring up.
Okay, amazing. I love it. I love it. Okay. So I just wanted to finish by saying I love you. I appreciate you. I'm just so proud of you. And I'm honestly, I think the biggest word that comes to my mind is I'm just so grateful to be a part of your journey and to be a part of everyone's journey. Everyone who's listening, I am so fucking grateful to be a part of your journey and be able to help you in whatever capacity that is. And so, Franzi, thank you so much for being a part of my life. And I'm so excited for when you come to America and I can visit you.
Don't be afraid if you don't speak English, just do it. You will figure it out with her, I promise you. Thank
I
you
love
so
it.
much for having me. I really hope like some of the stuff I said is helping someone out there. And if you do decide to do the program, it won't be a mistake, I promise. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Love you. If you're loving the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast and you want to learn how to get over your ex in 3 months or less to build a life better than the one you thought you had with your ex, I would like to personally invite you to my next group course where we take everything you've learned here on the podcast and apply it to your life. Come check it out at www.lifecoachdorothy.com.